Once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, you're now tuned into the Investor Show. As always, this is your gracious host, coming from the beautiful city and state of Denver, Colorado. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, comment, and share button. And as always, I don't have a lot of time, and I definitely know you guys and girls don't have a lot of time. So today we got a very special guest in the building. He is running for District 9, city councilman. And if he is successful on this coming Tuesday, he will be the youngest councilman by a few months in Denver history. So thought that was a great story. Young man with goals and dreams and aspirations. And I was honored to meet him. We served on a panel and wanted to bring him in and share his ideas. What is his ideas for Denver? The councilman, what does it mean to him? What if he wins? What if he loses? We got to talk about the economical empowerment too. But without further ado, let me bring in my guest. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, man. It's a windy day in Denver.
Yeah. I drive a truck. It's a pretty nice sized truck. And it felt like I was almost about to be moved off the road on my way over here, So so definitely a windy day today. But speaking of that, you got some big plans.
I do.
Next week could change your life.
It could. But
before we get into that, tell everybody who don't know about you, who you are, what are you doing? How'd you get to this point of coming up, running up for Denver City Council number 9?
Yeah, so I'm Kwon Atlas. I am a resident of the 5 Points neighborhood, Denver native. I think growing up, on the east side of Park Hill, Montbello, Green Valley Ranch, all those areas, just seeing the differences in the different communities and the challenges that we faced, and then growing up, and then seeing going around the country and seeing different success and what that looks like in different neighborhoods, and just always having an eye towards equity and fairness is really what drives me towards public service. Because you see a lot of the things that you don't like, but are you going to step up and actually make that change and make that difference? So I got my bachelor's at Colorado State University.
Okay.
And that was kind of when I started to dabble in politics. I was involved in the student government. And at the time, this was when Black Lives Matter and a lot of the Black Student Matter movements were happening across different campuses and those type of things. And so I got an opportunity to use my voice to make a difference, to diversify the student government, as well as provide recommendations to the CSU president at the time, Tony Frank, and the administration. And they were receptive to many of the ideas because they knew things needed to change. And then as I started my career, started at the bottom, knocking doors, making calls and helping out campaigns. Then I got opportunity to serve with our current state senator for this area, James Coleman. He was a state representative serving the far northeast at the time. And that was a pleasure because those are neighborhoods that I grew up in. And seeing an African-American young man himself, he was one of the youngest state representatives ever elected. And just the way he carried himself and got things done was a huge opportunity to learn. And then just after that first session, got a call from U.S. Senator Michael Bennet, who's a senator of Colorado, to serve in his state administration, and focused on community liaisoning as well as constituent services, which means if you have a problem with the government, whether it's maybe you're a veteran and you're having some issues with the VA, or you're getting your medals, if you have immigration issues, having education issues with your student loans and those type of things, we will actually try to provide support and connect you with the right folks. And then after that time,
so all this time, the senator has someone like out there for veterans and entrepreneurs and things like that. They can kind of reach out to their local senator and have a liaison and kind of reach out to them and help.
Absolutely. So they get hundreds of calls throughout the state, and we have the authority to basically bring these issues to him, and then we write a letter to the federal government agency that may be causing the problem. And they're typically receptive, obviously, to a U.S. senator saying, "Hey, you got to fix this," or "Hey, we need to address this. We need to address this issue because of X or X reason." And so then went in to serve with our outgoing mayor, Mayor Michael B. Hancock, as a started off in the comms department. During his election, he liked some of the things that I wrote,
Mm-hmm.
and so he put me in his comms department, and then I got promoted to a senior advisor on community-based initiatives and special projects. So all that means is that I was working with different agencies on various different projects to serve the community. And really, after COVID, everything kind of shifted. Our focuses and
Okay.
how our business as usual kind of shifted. And so here I am. Um, Left the mayor's office because I felt like one, I could do a better job serving the district, District 9. Um, I think that the current council person has created just some interesting dynamics
Mm.
for our city. And
Hold on before you get into it.
yeah,
Let me answer this one. So, what is wrong with our current District 9 councilman? And are they running for reelection or this is an open?
councilwoman,
Oh,
and
councilwoman,
yes,
correction.
Councilwoman Candy Tabaka. You know,
She's running for
she
reelection.
is running for reelection.
What
So
makes you want to run up against?
there's a lot of reasons. The primary reason is, I think, just the level of results. Right, we've seen in Denver over the last couple of years, particularly during and after COVID, a lot of challenges. Our homeless population has exploded. Affordability has gone astronomical. Our economic conditions and the different things we see in the market and how that's affecting people, everyday folks, has shifted. And crime and violence has gone up in our city. And so
Mm.
the clean, safe Denver on the rise is not really what we're seeing right now. And I think she's been a part of that, part of the problem. She um, I think she's very passionate and she's done a lot for her neighborhood and certain communities. And I think she be applauded. But one thing that I think is for certain is that her sort of brand of politics has created a dynamic where her fellow council people, as well as the agency and the existing mayor and potentially the next mayor, don't want to work with her. And so currently have a council person who's ineffective to actually get things done for our district. I'm somebody who, I can work with anybody. I don't care
Mm.
what your background is, your race background, your gender, sexual orientation, your political party, your religion. I can work with you. Find that common ground and let's get to work on the issues that I think are important for the district. And I'm not someone trying to create fights and go back and forth with people.
Mm.
I believe in building people up and being positive and
Now,
creating that positive
is
energy.
this her first term, second term?
First term, hopefully only term.
Mm.
I'm
Okay,
coming in
okay.
like that.
Okay, I see. I like that. Okay,
you know.
so you want to so you see the problems you listed. You said
Mhm.
homelessness, affordability, right? How will you change affordability of houses in Denver? Because it's been going around the country,
Yeah.
So how would you change that? What would be your approach?
So there's a lot of different approaches. First and foremost, we have to be committed to building. It is a supply and demand. People want to live in Denver more and more. Not only coastal folks moving to Denver, but also folks in our rural areas throughout Colorado are moving to urban centers.
Mm.
This has been year over year shown by our state demographer. So we're seeing these changes, and we have to be able to be responsive so that folks who are from here, who have been living here, don't just have to, compete with folks who maybe have more money, as well as we're competing over the same stock, right? So that's first and foremost. Second, we can create more affordable housing programs that are innovative. Right now, we do a lot of affordable housing deals with developers at the point of new construction to sort of capture some of those. So we now have a requirement for 10% of a new development to be affordable housing. We've done deals where if you want to get more height increases or a zoning change for parking, you would give over some affordable housing units. But what we have to do is really look at the stock. There are vacant rooms as well, bedrooms as well as full units in various places. City needs to come to the table to provide all landlords a deal. Say, hey, if you provide your unit at a certain cost rate, we'll come through and match a certain amount of money for
Mm.
you. We see a lot of folks have moved in the economy over the last few years
Mm-hmm.
into owning multiple properties, which is great. Having Airbnbs and those type of things. What if we could capture some of those Airbnb investors and say, hey, you're now affordable housing provider.
So, of course, so you're essentially saying, hey, you property owner that's renting out your apartment house or whatever for $2,000 a month. If you bring it down to $1,500 a month, we'll compensate you for another $500,
Right. Absolutely.
right? So sounds good because the landlord gets to win, then the tenant gets to win. What to the people that say, hey, where's this money going to come from? This $500 Skyping that
Yeah.
people are getting, and where are we going to get that? We're going to have to raise taxes. Where's this revenue base going to come from?
Well, we're gonna have to do something, but the state of Colorado just pushed hundreds of millions of dollars coming from that budget going into affordable housing programs throughout the state. And Denver,
Mm,
as the biggest municipality, will get a large chunk of that money. So we have federal, state, and local dollars that we could leverage. And if it's truly a value for affordable housing, I think we can come to the voters with some sort of measure to increase that. But what I think folks need to know, because we've had so many different increases for parks and libraries and sidewalks and all these different things,
mhm.
if we're going to invest in affordable housing, who actually benefits from that? And making sure it's people who actually need it and that it's actually providing, resource for everybody. One thing that I've been saying on the campaign trail, and this is something I believe in with the work that I do in nonprofit space, is the best affordability is home ownership.
Mm.
So we have to raise the bar. Yes, keep people in their house, keep people in their housing. Um, you know, talk about rent control. Talk about subsidizing someone's affordable housing. But how can we move them into generational wealth and home ownership and a mortgage that is set for years, which more likely would go down at the
Mhm.
rate we're at right now, would likely go down over time and their expenses would actually decrease rather than increasing every year based on the property owner and the and your landlord, right?
So, what would be your goal to increase home ownership?
Yeah, so we we have to look at we have it's really simple. The model to being able to own a home is fairly well known. I think maybe not in all communities and all parts of our city and different parts of our country, but as far as the basics, parameters, getting folks to a 620, 680 credit score. We've been doing that as a
Mm,
pilot program with Metro Deep. Been actually looking at people's credit. Typically, folks with bad credit don't have a lot of credit issues because they were not offered credit.
credit, yeah.
So we found that we could actually fix a lot of problems with folks with about $1,000 to $500,000, or not $1,000 to $5,000,
Mhm.
right? Typically, right? So we could fix that. Two, down payment assistance. The Deerfield Fund has been giving African American folks, particularly, a $40,000 uh, home community second, right? So it's bringing that to the down payment assistance. Couple that with something like what First Bank has been doing with the PATH program. They've been giving $15,000 to $20,000 as a grant, completely free. Getting then now you put those together, you're getting $60,000 to $70,000 to go buy a home, and it's actually providing you even at a lower cost base for everything that you have. So we know that that's what it takes typically, right? And capacity, jobs, higher wages, getting
Mhm.
folks doing workforce and career development work so that more folks are not just at our minimum wage, but at a thriving wage and at a wage where they can actually go buy a home. And then we got to put more homes on the market. That's the last piece. So we have all this development has been in the apartment space, and a lot of it has been luxury apartments, right?
Mhm.
If we can transfer these apartments to condos, we have thousands of folks living in condos, particularly in District 9. We have some of the highest density in the city. Transitioning those into condos and giving the folks that are already renting the first right of refusal and the first opportunity to buy that home. And then, like I said,
Mm.
coupling it with all the different programs that I just mentioned to actually bridge that gap so we can make that transfer. So we
Now,
have historically low
how
homes on the housing market, and that's what's driving up the cost.
okay, now people who sit back and say, "Hey, man, these social programs sound good. Offer people first time ownership. Will any of this have to raise taxes?"
Well, it's actually these things will actually help our tax base,
Oh,
right?
how's that?
Because if you have more property owners, it's again more property tax. Um, you have
Mm.
you have folks who are, like I said, thriving rather than benefiting. So we look at the long term
Mm.
solution of home ownership. I can get you, get you into a rental apartment that I'm subsidizing forever, right? Or I can get you in home ownership, and now you're growing in equity, and you have something for your family and your children's children, right? The long term benefit of that is actually going to help our society and our tax base. And
Now
like I
let me
said,
ask
do
you
we
this.
go ahead?
What did the entrepreneur who went out there and brought a duplex or apartment complex,
Okay.
and they're looking forward to that renter base, will that affect them? Will they look at it and say, "Wow, they're just giving away houses now. Nobody wants to rent my apartment."
We're
You
not
know,
giving away
hmm
houses. We're helping people
get into them.
qualify because we're already paying. If you're paying, I'm paying $2,400 for a
House,
two bedroom apartment,
apartment,
right? 24
2 bedroom apartment.
in
That's what.
5 points, right? And I don't even have a lot of amenities.
How many
So
square feet?
about 1,000 square feet. So
A
it's nice.
1,000 square
It's
feet,
yeah,
2 bedroom apartment is
yeah.
2,400
For
bucks.
me and my son, yeah. So I could have a mortgage, right? And I do own property, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So this is just where I've chosen the
yeah,
situation, but a lot of folks are in that same situation who don't own any property. So to say that folks who are already spending that level of money
hmm
and working and surviving, we just move them into a place where they're now making equity and they're actually um, benef- setting something for their future, right? And I think that's a bigger thing for all of us. And I have no problem with somebody who has a duplex and wants to
yeah,
rent things.
yeah.
And like I said, the programs that I'm mentioning are actually benefiting you, right? Because if you could fill, if you, as you know, you got to fill those units so that you can move on to the next project, right? Or to make sure that you have a strong lease and strong rentership for your investment. So the city coming in with someone like you rather than just someone who's building,
hmm
500 units, they're actually coming to someone who's more small time and saying, "Hey, we'll do a deal with you. We got some folks who want to get housed. Here's a check each month that's guaranteed." So if we can get into that space, there's been a lot of folks talking about city getting into, they call it social housing or public housing, and we should get into, city should develop our own housing stock. But if you think about our budget, roughly 2 billion, and maybe you could say a little bit more if you include the airport, which you really can't include the airport into the city budget, right? So if we were to take one of these, let's say let's say 300 units. If we wanted to build 300 units, we're talking about a project that's hundreds of millions of dollars.
hmm
So you're taking a huge chunk of the city's budget
Budget.
just to build one development. So to say that the city is going to start building a massive amount of housing is kind of
Crazy.
crazy because then you have to pull that from somewhere else. So you're going to pull it from public safety, you're going to pull it from climate, or you're going to pull it from human services and these other departments. Probably you really can't, because these folks need their money for the work that they do that's outside of our housing, even though housing is the number one issue for a lot of folks.
Okay. You spoke. You hit on something where you want people instead of. I think it was you want them to thrive instead of survive.
Right.
Right. Get them an affordable wage. What is the mission behind giving them affordable wage? Because I think minimum wage in Denver now is what, $15,
It's higher. I think it's closer to
16,
17.
$17.
Mm-hmm.
So $17, right? What do you got to say to that business or that company that's saying, man, it's hard to pay $17.
It is.
You're taking my overhead up. So what will be your goal behind getting those wages up to kind of chase down the cost of living?
Yeah. Like I said, it's about training folks for the jobs of today and jobs of tomorrow. So we have to lean more into workforce development. And then as we build folks up, there's always going to be other folks who can now fill these
Mm-hmm.
other roles who maybe need some other training, technical assistance, or support. I love the work that like Denver Community Works has been doing, and the
Yeah.
Dream Center, and a lot of these folks are folks who may be formerly incarcerated or formerly homeless, and actually helping them move into the workforce. And it's really tricky, challenging work, but we have to do it. So talk about the minimum wage. The minimum wage is tied to sort of a growth in the economy, right? And as well as the AMI and price index. So if we have cost of living increases go up, basically, then the minimum wage goes up. But the minimum wage goes up, and all the retail stores and everything that we benefit off, they have to
got to
raise
go
their
up.
prices.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
then everything goes up,
That's
and then
something
the
that the
minimum
dog
wage goes
chasing
up.
the tail. Like,
So there's a multiplier effect that should have been talked about, studied in economics when you make investments. There's a multiplier effect on this. And not to say that, folks who are on minimum wage shouldn't get increases, but to what end? It went up a significant amount in just 1 year.
Yeah.
And we might have another year where it goes up again. And so for those small business owners looking to have employees, what are your choices? I got to hire less employees and have the folks I have do more work.
Yeah.
And so we have to think about our models and again be forward looking. And that's why I think thriving rather than surviving. Minimum wage shouldn't be the conversation that we're having. How do we get Denver homegrown folks, the folks who are the most challenged, and have the most barriers? How do we get rid of those barriers and get them into a workforce? What we're kind of seeing, especially if you've been here, you kind of notice a lot of folks who grew up here are not doing as well as folks who are coming here.
Yeah.
And how do we shift that dynamic, right? Who gets the job? Someone from somewhere else, or someone who went to East High School or went to Colorado State University or UNC from our state, from our communities, right? And so that's going to take some intentional work. Again, we got to raise the bar.
What will be your solution behind that?
I think there's a lot of we have to well, first of all, we have to look at DPS. We have to look at our education system. I think it's failing. It's failing our kids, and it's not to place blame on the school board or the superintendent. Again, the way the model is set up, right? So you get this, the schools get funding about how many students go to public schools. Public schools are for everybody, but folks who send their kids to public schools don't necessarily have the option financially to send them to a private school. But as Denver's affluence has grown and the area media has grown, and you have people coming from other states, they're sending their kids to private schools. So you have less and less kids going to public schools, which decreases the amount of money they have, which is why they have to shut down schools, provide less services, hire less teachers. And then that impacts the pensions and everything else because they have less workers paying into that system. So they have a huge shortfall of issues that they have to cover just with how the model is set up. So that's first and foremost. But as far as our education, you spend basically, I want to say most people spend about 10 or 11 years learning algebra, which is just the first, just on the math part. Yeah. It's just the first step to talking about calculus. Calculus is the math of the universe that you could basically calculate anything, right? You don't even get to that point for most of your education. Yeah. And then you expect it to go to college, and then they want you to know that for most of those careers. We need to be exposing kids to calculus earlier and raising the bar. We talk about reading and comprehension has to be higher standards. And then we talk about the jobs. Many jobs, you get on the job training. So what folks are doing, like career-wise with the apprenticeship model, high school kids could go into these office buildings and go do this work. Go learn how to work Microsoft Word and Google Suite and those type of things, and be able to learn how to do these jobs earlier on rather than waiting when you're in your 23, 24, first time getting a job. So getting folks experience earlier. We have the trades, of course, are great jobs, and then entrepreneurship. So we're going to be doing a program at the Montbello Community Center this summer, where we want to get like 10 to 15 young adult entrepreneurs, serious entrepreneurs. This is not a summer camp.
Yeah.
But if you have business ideas, how do you move into that? We don't teach entrepreneurship. We don't teach investing in schools. We don't teach even civics and how to run a campaign. Campaigning is there's a lot of money that gets spent, right? There's been over $13 million raised in the city elections.
Wow.
For this cycle. Who's getting that money? Marketing firms, printing firms,
social media people,
consultants, folks who move things, all that type of stuff, right? So if you know that, if you knew the business of politics as well as what is a council person and what do they do, you could actually make some money and you can actually benefit from it. But we're not teaching these type of things. We're just teaching algebra.
The money behind the politics. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we get out of here, what is that you want to leave this audience with? And also, how can people follow you, get more in contact with you, and things like that?
Yeah, I would just say right now, the biggest thing that's on my mind is that I'm looking at the returns, and less than 5,000 folks of the 50,000 registered voters in District 9 have turned in their ballot, and they have only a couple more days.
Wow.
So that's like 9% turnout right now, and that's about the same citywide.
Oh,
so
wow.
even if you're not in District 9, the voter turnout is super, super low. So we need folks to turn in their ballot. There's only a couple questions on there: mayor, clerk, auditor, council at large, your council person, and then there's 3 other ballot questions. So it doesn't take that much time, but folks are, for whatever reason, not doing it. And this is so important. The next 12 years are about to get decided. You have a new mayor, and the mayor controls just about everything. And you get your council people to be that check against the mayor, as well as to be your representative as city government. So it's super important that folks get their ballot in. You can't mail it anymore. You have to drop it off, or you have to go in person. If you don't know where your ballot is, you have to go in person. But again, 8 questions, super easy, super quick. We're one of the easiest places to vote in the country, so there's really no excuse. Folks can follow me at Kwon Atlas on just about every platform, and my website is kwonatlas.com. So it's pretty simple. That's KWONATLAS.com. And like I said, I'd be honored to have your vote if you're listening to this and you got inspired. If you have any questions, I'm open to having questions all weekend. My phone's on. Just give me a call.
Got it. Okay. Well, I follow him, guys. I want y'all guys and girls out there to check him out. Thank you for stopping by today. Yeah. And also, the best of luck on Tuesday. I'll be watching. I'll be at Mission Viejo in elementary school. We're doing a community financial literacy night that night on Tuesday. But, we'll get the results, and, I wish you the best. And either way, I'm going to be here to, help you out and support you. And hopefully you become Denver's youngest councilman.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
All right. Thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Oh, hey, well, before we get out of here, ladies and gentlemen, you guys and girls already know. Until the next video, podcast, cartoon, or whatever else crazy you see me do around the globe, peace, be safe, I'm out, and thank you.